Afrophobia, or hating a person from another African country purely because they come from another African country, is one of the saddest challenges and crimes against humanity we face in our country. From discrimination to violence and often to death, foreign nationals in South Africa have not had it easy, that's to say the least. I've spent the better part of today with two individuals who have experienced a horrific nightmare 2 weeks ago in Durban. And I want to read for you what happened to them in their words. Around 8 p.m. last evening, we were stopped by 6 cops in a taxi. They asked to search us. Upon them searching us and realizing we were foreigners, pushed us in the taxi and started beating us with a glass bottle. After that, they drove us to the top of Durban station, dragged us into a room at the top of the Durban station, and started slapping, kicking, and punching us. They would also bang our heads onto the wall and bang our heads against each other. They would wrap tires around our heads, push us around, and strangle us. They wanted to teach foreigners a lesson, they said. These two young men have been through the most traumatic experience. Tires, reminiscent of the torture tactics used by the apartheid government against activists and freedom fighters in our country. So today we documented it via news media. You'll be able to catch the story on ENCA this evening or this afternoon, as well as Eyewitness News. And we want to say thank you to the journalists, Nabila Sheikh, Kosikona Duma, and other journalists who were there today with us to record what happened to these two young men. It's important that justice is served, not only because we want to prevent an incident like this, the nightmare that happened to these two young men, from ever happening again, but we want to prevent it from happening to other people who don't have access to the iPod, who we reported the matter to, who cannot access the media, who don't know which NGOs to approach to be able to stand with them. How many cases are not reported because people are too scared or don't know their rights? This is the reality that we face in our country. So criminal charges have been instituted. A civil claim will follow. But it is equally important, in my opinion, to ask the 6 police officers who tortured these two young men simply because they come from another country on the African continent. Why? Why would you forget your Ubuntu? Why would you forget the black consciousness taught to us by people like Steve Biko? During the torture sessions, they said, foreigners are taking our jobs and foreigners are sending their kids to our schools, etc. Do you really think that if there were no foreign nationals in our country, that everything would be okay? That there would be no inequality? That the gap between the rich and the rest would not still be one of the largest in the world? That there would be no greed and corruption? Do you really think that would be the case? Foreign nationals come to our country often fleeing disasters and war zones in theirs. Imaginary lines in the map, nonetheless. They start businesses, they employ people, they invest back into the economy. We cannot paint every person who's from another country with the same brush. What would happen if South Africans were treated in this way, tortured, with tires put around them, strangled, beaten up, humiliated and dehumanized in another African country? How would we feel about it? But is it okay for us as South Africans to do it and somehow justify it because we're frustrated with the economy, with crime, with corruption? And why are police officers teaching younger police officers to be violent? Are these the new terror training camps in our country? We train cops to become sadistic killers. And then we wonder why this country is dysfunctional. We're never going to heal unless we embrace our humanity and unless we answer these very, very difficult questions. So I'm going to ask you, if you're watching this video, to stand with foreign nationals as human beings. What it says in an ID book or a passport makes no difference. We're all human beings. And I want you to stand with these two young men who have been so brave to tell the world what they experience in our country, South Africa, a country where we are self hating Africans. We hate ourselves. We must hate ourselves if we're able to treat Africans the way that we do, fellow Africans the way that we do. So stand with these two young men, become friends with your foreign national neighbors, and teach the world what Ubuntu really means. Umuntu gumuntu gabantu. If you have experienced an incident of police brutality or xenophobia, as difficult as it is, report the matter to SAPS. If that doesn't work, go to the IPID, who investigate police brutality by the South African Police Service. Reach out to organizations like Lawyers for Human Rights and Amnesty International. Contact journalists. There are some brilliant journalists out there who are telling these stories, who have the guts to do that. Was it easy today to try and get the truth out at the scene of the torture of these two young men? No. We were blocked in a number of ways. Clearly, there is something going on in Durban, and the truth will come out. And the problem is not these two young men for having the courage to speak out. The problem is the conduct of these police officers who think that they can get away with it. Justice must be done. Umuntu gumuntu gabantu. Maibuye, e Africa.